Hello, everyone. So I'm wondering, can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. And if I move back to here, can you still hear me the same? Let me just see. Actually, the sound. Yeah. So how's the sound here? Is that still fine? Oh, okay, cool. Does it get less or is it the same? Yay. Okay, perfect. We've got new sound going on. I'll just wait a few moments while everyone joins. And so today's class is going to be Yin Yoga. So Yin is a very still and very meditative form of yoga, and we hold positions between 5 to 7 minutes. So making sure that you have any props that you can grab from your home. So maybe cushions from the couch or a bolster, and then also blocks. So it's good to have blocks, or you could sit on books. So having maybe a few books together. And then once you have all of your props, we'll be working through a Yin Yoga sequence. So it's a very slow and still way of practicing yoga. And we'll be holding positions, relaxing into them, and allowing for a gentle traction in the fascia. So the fascia is the soft tissue that surrounds the entire body. And so it's a delicious practice of really unraveling and letting go. So in order to begin, we'll come to a lying down position. If you do have cushions or pillows, then we could place them behind your sacrum. And if you have your bolster, placing it right next to your lower back, and then slowly roll downwards. And here, as you cultivate a back bend, if you find that there's any pinching or pain in your lower back, then just moving the props away and we can rest on the floor instead. So we could have the position set up, if you're working with no props, just lying down with your feet together and your knees wide. And then once lying down, we call this pose Supta Baddha Konasana. Here we'll take a few releasing sighs. So deep breath in through the nose. And big sigh out. Long, very deep breath in through the nose. Breathing all the way down to your lower abdomen. And big sigh out. And then one more, inhale deeply. Really expand your whole body, expanding the chest. Big sigh out. As you relax into this first pose, this pose is a hip opening. So if you do find it to be too much, you can always have props behind your knees, and they can be as high as you want, just to support the legs whilst they move outwards. And we'll be practicing a pranayama exercise here. So pranayama is really the control and the redistribution of our pranic energies. So focus on bringing the breath into the lower abdomen. And then as you breathe in, the breath moves down into the chest, filling up the chest, and then extend the breath down to the lower belly as much as you can. Let's take a pranayama exercise, which actually is about holding the breath. So we'll breathe in for 4, and then hold the breath for 4, and then exhale very slowly for 6. So we're lengthening our exhalation to really calm the nervous system response. In order to begin, let's exhale entirely, breathing out. Breathing out entirely, and then take a deep breath in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding the breath in 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out slowly for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Breathing in deeply for 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding the breath in 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out slowly for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Breathing in deeply for 1, 2, 3, 4. Holding the breath 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out slowly for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now carrying on in the same manner, but this time counting to yourself mentally. So as we breathe in for 4, then holding the breath at the top of the inhalation for 4, and we call this one a kumbhaka. And then as we exhale the entire breath out for a count of 6. So it's about creating a smooth and steady flow. So this continual, even flow of breath throughout the entire counts. And then counting to yourself mentally, we'll take 3 more rounds. Good. And then when you've finished your last round of breathing, take a deep breath in all the way to the top, and we're going to hold the breath for as long as feels comfortable. So breathing in totally. And then pause at the top. See if you can relax your shoulders, relaxing the face, relaxing the tiny muscles around your eyes and the eyelids, relaxing the brow and the jaw. Perhaps you feel into your heart beating. And when you feel ready to, letting the breath go really slowly. And allow your breath to find its own natural rhythm. Breathing in through the nose, out through the nose. Diaphragmatic breathing, so the lower belly moves. Much like when we're sleeping, this is the breathing pattern of rest and digest mode. So the parasympathetic response in the nervous system. Noticing how the pranayama has affected your inner systems and the mind, maybe just to some small degree already. And then we'll bring the palms behind your knees, helping the legs to move together. Roll to your right side and come to a seated position. And so in your comfortable seated pose, bring the palms to prayer pose. Anjali Mudra. Thumbs connect to the center of the heart chakra, Anahata. And call into your experience something you'd love to invite into maybe your yoga practice or day-to-day life. And then once you have your intention, repeat that 3 times to yourself mentally. And have a wonderful Yin Yoga today, everyone. As we move into our first pose, let's slide your feet forwards and come to butterfly position. So we could choose to move your legs further forwards to make it slightly more spacious, or having more of a square shape. So find a place that suits you, like a diamond shape or a square shape if you were to look sideways. And then some of you may want to sit on support. So having support under you makes it easier to fold forwards. So sitting on a cushion or blocks or books. And as you fold forwards, we bring the palms maybe to the legs or perhaps to the feet. Or you could bring your forearms over your shins. And then folding to a place where you can go no further. So you find your fullest range of motion. And then supporting your pose with props under your forehead if you would like to. So you could use your bolster. It could be tall ways up, or maybe a cushion on the feet. Or no props and resting perhaps your forehead to a block or book, or even to your feet. So that's a bit more intense, using your feet as a pillow. See which feels good for you. The palms can also be behind you. So if you are finding it hard to keep moving forwards, you could bring your fingertips behind your hips and then press your torso forwards into the fold. And finally, if you do want to go to the fullest expression, then we move the arms under your legs and then relax the legs onto the arms. So they kind of pin you in place. And now once you find your desired level of sensation, this one we call butterfly position. So butterfly is a gentle hip opening, but also a forward fold. So it's great to begin your practice in this pose if you are practicing at home. And so as we begin in this pose, it immediately calms the nervous system. For forward folding and hip opening, both are working to calm the nervous system response, to alter the way in which our systems speak to one another, and to over time find more space mentally. Now there are 3 principles to the way we practice Yin Yoga. So I'm going to run through these 3 principles as you hold your pose. So principle number 1 is we always work with the most appropriate level of sensation. And this is one of never too much or too little sensation. So we're keen to feel gentle, continual traction in the fascia, but it never be so intense that it creates more tension somewhere else. So we're working with not too much and not too little sensation. Then principle number 2 is we hold in stillness and muscular relaxation, relaxing entirely into each position so that we can bring gentle opening to areas that we're targeting to enliven blood flow. So new, fresh, oxygenated blood into the tissue that we're targeting. But also the chi flow is enlivened through meridian lines, these energy pathways running from head to toe. And so as we practice in stillness and muscular relaxation, the practice becomes much more like meditation in each pose. So it's very similar and really a journey towards seated meditation. And we can gain the same benefit of allowing the thoughts to slow down. And the fluctuations of the thoughts, the citta vritti, these fluctuations of mind, begin to slow, to quieten, and then in some cases even cease entirely. So we're left with a quality of space and greater connection to our beingness. And then principle number 3 is we hold for a long period of time. Time being the magic ingredient. Time is the way in which everything alters. If we give the body time and stillness, the mind alters. And if we give ourselves time to sit with our emotions alter. And so time is needed to really percolate, to stew, to absorb, and to really embed the teachings and the wisdom that can come through from inside of us in stillness. And here we'll take 2 more very slow, deep breaths. And then 1 more deep breath in. And in slow motion, release. So releasing from your hip opening by walking your palms back towards you. And slow motion release. Bring your palms behind your knees, helping them to move together. And then take a cross-legged position for a moment in meditation. In between positions, we pause to feel into the rebound effect, how the posture and how the stillness is resonating. Here, take a deep breath in and big sigh out. And then rest in the stillness and the space after a sigh. And now as we move into our next position, let's come to an all fours pose. And moving your knees underneath your hips. Check in with your knees, make sure they're hip width apart. And hips remain on top of knees, so this alignment here, whilst we bring the palms forwards of the shoulders and then slow motion lower your forearms and then forehead to the ground. So working maybe with your forehead to the floor or one cheek. Or some people like to bring their chin to the ground. See what feels good for you here. If you find that there's too much sensation, and maybe you have a yoga bolster at home, then we can move the yoga bolster under the upper chest. So this would be positioning the bolster here, then bring your elbows over it, and then bring your knees forwards or backwards, however you need to. I need to move my knees back here so that I can outstretch the arms more. And we could also bring them forwards to have more support. So depends how you feel. We need to play around with it a little bit. If the knees are too far back, then we have too much pressure. So just bring them forwards. And then if we are not feeling enough, so a way in which we feel more sensation is to move 2 blocks under your forearms and then resting your forehead to the ground, positioning the knees as needed forwards or back so that they're underneath your hips and the forehead rests on the floor. And that's the way we deepen the position. And that can be quite intense, so go carefully. We are holding for long periods of time, so if you need to, you can always release back to a child's pose. And child's pose is a way we can take the pressure off the shoulders themselves. And then once in your position, take a deep breath into the upper back. And then as you breathe out, sink and soften downwards. Here we are working in the heart and the lung meridians. So these run on the inside of both arms, down into the chest. And the lung meridian is the yin organ, actually, for the metal element. And the yang organ that corresponds with the lungs is the large intestine. So the lung and the large intestine qi are part of the metal element. And they're responsible for the skin and the health of the skin. So we can see the state of our metal qi and support our metal element by supporting skin, or having a look at skin and the health of the skin in, for example, acupuncture sessions. And this controls also respiration and elimination. So we can think of the skin as, and also the lungs as being part of this elimination process. And the chakra that it refers to is Vishuddhi chakra, so the throat chakra. The sense organ related to the metal element is the nose. And as we practice our lung and also large intestine qi positions, enlivening the qi flow to be less deficient and more healthy, more robust in its flow, we can move away from emotions of sorrow and sadness and grief and move into more positive emotional states such as courage. So we can address our sorrow with the courage and the bravery to hold not only our sorrow but also to move beyond it. And so the lungs are said to store our grief and our sorrow. And so when we practice these positions, we can sometimes feel emotions arise within us. Just breathe into anything that you feel. Breathe into any moments of vulnerability that can arise. Allow that vulnerability to be there. There's a huge amount of courage needed to feel vulnerability. So actually, vulnerability is a strength. Now here we'll take 3 more deep breaths. And breathing into the heart space, breathing into the lungs. Any encouraging greater chi flow also in our large intestine here. So breathe into the abdomen. And now in slow motion we'll release. So slide yourself forwards. Bend the elbows and come to rest on the front. Bring your palms facing downwards so that the backs of the hands become a pillow for your forehead or one cheek. And here taking a deep breath in and big sigh out. Whole body awareness, whole body mindfulness. When you feel ready to, let's come to the forearms. So resting all the way up on your forearms. If you do want to, we can move to the side lateral pose. So bring your right forearm in front of you, left fingertips by your left hip, and swivel yourself onto the side. So this is an alternative if we're working perhaps in this pose and we feel a back pain or a pinching. So here we should feel no pain. So if you do feel pain there when you back bend, however mild the back bend may be, try moving on to the side. And then this will be opening the psoas, but in a different direction. So we work on one side of the psoas and then the other, instead of both at the same time. So as we want to progress more here, we could press your right hand to the floor, lift your right elbow, and go very slowly. And then see if you can position your hips forwards, so the hips are in line with your palm and your toes. Just checking if your whole body is in one line. And maybe you feel too much here, so you can always come back to your forearm if you do. As you breathe in, breathe into your side body. And as you breathe out, sink and soften through the side body. So your right ribs will really soften and melt and sink down towards your right wrist or elbow. Feel the gentle traction occurring in the lateral body. And if you have remained in the center and you're working the back bend, if you would like to go further in your back bend, we can move the palms wide and lift both elbows. And this is how we deepen our back bend, by walking the palms mindfully towards the hips. Make sure you feel no pain, no pinching. As you breathe in, breathe into the area that we're opening. So either side body or front of the hips. And as you breathe out, sink and soften through the center of the chest downwards. Breathing into your side body. Encourage the breath to move into all of these areas that are opening. And exhale to soften and become more passive and surrendered. Whole body breathes in. Whole body breathes out. Whole body breathes in. And whole body breathes out. Good. And if you are on the side, then we'll switch now. But if you are in the back bend, you can stay there or move to your elbows, whichever feels best. So in order to release your lateral bend, bring your elbow down, release all the way forwards. Rest for a breath or two in the center, and then come to your opposite side. So once you've positioned yourself on the opposite side, make sure that you check your hips, your palm, and your feet are all in one line. And then you can go further by lifting your left elbow. Take a breath in here. Exhale to really soften and sink downwards. Breathing in. And encourage the breath into the front of the hips, the side of the waist. And exhale to soften and sink through the thoracic spine. Maybe we're hammocking the spine down and forwards in our back bend. Or if you're in the lateral bend, think of your left ribs moving downwards towards your left wrist, whilst keeping the left arm straight. And so the work we're doing here is around the lungs still. And the fascia of the lateral body. And we're also working in the gallbladder meridian down the outer leg if we are working in the lateral position. So the IT band running down the outer leg has gentle pressure here. Yoga really is the practice of listening, deep, deep listening. So as we close our eyes in these positions, we open up a field of attention, a field of curiosity, through which we listen to ourselves and our experience. And so as we practice deep listening, we can notice, we can really shine the light of our attention inwards and notice all of these unconscious ways in which we hold ourselves. This could be physically holding tension, or maybe mentally we're holding ourselves back through limiting beliefs. So all of the ways in which we are creating our reality comes to light. And just with that field of attention, that field of curiosity turned inwards. We can begin to unravel all that we hold as the truth of this moment. And so the actual truth of the moment can come forwards. Now in slow motion we'll release. We bring the body into a neutral place, and perhaps you bring your forearm down or both elbows, and then slowly resting on the front. Relax your legs, relaxing the glutes. And here take a deep breath in. Big sigh. Resting in whole body awareness, whole body mindfulness. Now as we move to our child's position, press into your palms, engage your core, pressing to an all fours pose, and then come to your child's position. Move your knees wide and bring your body forwards here. We can always move into a twist if we would like to, for wide knee child's pose twist. In order to do this, bring your left arm forwards, right arm under the left, and then slide your whole body towards the left. Reach along the lateral lines and notice more sensation maybe appears in the inside of your right leg. And if that's not enough, we can also go into a twist by moving your left arm behind you. And catch hold of either the trouser or the t-shirt or the inside of your right thigh. And so as you breathe in here, send the breath and really direct the breath down into the hips. And then to lines of sensation you're experiencing on the inner legs. And here we're working in the kidney and the liver meridians on the inner legs. As you breathe in, breathe into any sensation you are experiencing. So the breath becomes an amazing massage, moving the breath into areas that are opening, can really massage the tissue that we're working into. And with the arm underneath us, we're continuing our work in the lung meridian. So use the weight of your body to sink onto the right arm that's under you if you're twisting. Boosting and enlivening this metal element. Now, if we are prone to being drawn to very spicy foods, it could be that the metal element is out of balance, as the taste for this metal element is spicy. The climate in the body is described as dry. So dry skin, dry, or dehydrated. The season that it corresponds to is autumn, so fall. And the color, white. And the natural cycle is described as harvest. As we take one more breath in the twist here, breathe into lower spine. And in slow motion, press into your left hand so that you can rise back to center and alternate here. Move this time your left arm under your right arm, but go further to the right side so that we bring traction to the inside of your left leg. And this position is great for the intestines, large intestine, but also small intestine, as we're working in the heart chi as well. The heart and the small intestine belong to the fire element. And they govern over the health of our blood vessels, our circulation, and assimilation. And so the heart meridian lines are in the arm and the chest. And the sense organ is the tongue, so we can look at the health of the heart and small intestine through analyzing the tongue. And the emotional state, if the fire element and the heart and the small intestine chi is out of balance, we can experience distaste or even hate, feelings of hating a situation that we're in or a relationship. And on the flip side, when we are in balance, then we experience love. And so love and hate are part of the fire element. And the climate in the body is heat, warmth, hot. And this refers to the season of summer. And the taste is bitter. We may have a sudden craving for something really bitter. Now here we'll take 2 more deep breaths. Good, and in slow motion, releasing from your wide knee child's pose twist. Come all the way back to center. Move your hips away from heels. Move the knees into the center, maybe with a groan. And then stretch back through one leg and then the other. Once you've released through the legs, come to child's pose or a meditation seat. You can sit back on the heels, or if you need to release your legs forwards to give them a rest from being in flexion, then lean back on your palms and have your legs in front of you. Take a deep breath in and sigh out. Resting in stillness, whole body awareness. Good, and now after working lots in the upper body, we're going to move back into the lower regions of the body and practice a hip opener. The first option is to move to the back And bring your right ankle over your left knee, resting the left foot on the floor. Or alternatively, we can grab behind your leg, move the legs towards you, and this deepens your hip opening effect. Another way in which we can practice is to come to all fours and slide your right knee to your right wrist. Swivel the toes towards your left hip and slide your left toes backwards. So if you do find you do this and you can get back to about here and then your hips go no further, then we can slightly lean. So you lean to your right side and lower your right glute to the ground, bending the left knee. So you're sitting now on your right glute. You can then move your right foot forwards. And we call this pose deer position. So it's like a square shape with both legs. 90-degree angle-ish with both knees. Move your forearms over your front shin to feel the most in the outer leg and outer glute. And if you are in sleeping swan, which is the one in the center, with your legs straight behind you, a way in which we can make it deeper is to move your left arm under your right here, just like we did in child's pose. And once you settle into your hip opening, allow the posture to take time to develop. So you relax into the position over a long period of time. And so as we practice yoga, we're seeking to drop all of our not only physical tension, but emotional tension. And as we drop all of our tissues and our bones heavier to the earth, over time we're dissolving and dropping any delusion of mind. And so the mind can be very objective. It can create objects out of everything. It can separate. It can form containers and labels and barriers. And so all of this objectifying separates what is actually all linked, all interconnected. And so when we soften into a yoga position, we're softening all of the ways in which we have separated and objectified our reality. And we tap into the more feeling, more subjective experience of our own beingness. It's a very beautiful but simple shift that occurs. We move from the labels to just sitting in the experience that we're having. Really resting in it without any names or labels, to see how instead it feels from the inside out. So an example I can give of this is we could come to our yoga mat and we could say to ourselves, well, I have a bad hip, and so therefore I can't do yoga. And the more we sit in the experience and breathe into our body and do what we can, the label of that limitation drops away. And we realize that actually the yoga is the quality of attention that we bring, not what we're actually doing. For this reason, yoga is a mind state as opposed to the actual physical poses. And the more we listen into the areas that we thought were tight or stuck or unmoving, the more we can perceive breath in those areas. We realize that they do move in some small way. There is movement, that our initial label is very restricting. And actually we can breathe into any experience. And the more we do, it begins to change. And now taking your last 2 very slow, deep breaths, really softening around the sensation you feel. And now in slow motion, we'll release. So we slide the right leg behind you. If you're lying on the back, we can straighten both legs and just rest for a few moments. If you're releasing from the front, then we can come to child's position. In your child's pose, notice a deeper connection to the earth and gravity, so that feeling of heaviness, weightiness in the entire body. Now to move into our second side, let's bring your left knee to left wrist. Swivel the toes towards the right hip and slide right toes backwards. We can choose to practice on the back. So if you were on the back, bring your left ankle to right knee, taking the variation that you practiced previously, just on the opposite side now. If you want to go further, if you're on the front, we can move your right arm under your left arm, taking a twist. And maybe you have space behind you. So you lower your left glute sideways, bend your right knee, make sure both knees are more 90 degrees, and then folding forwards over your left shin. And so we have 3 options. Whichever pose suits you, resting effortlessly in your preferred option. And harnessing the power of the breathing, breathe down into the area that we're bringing gentle pressure to, or traction. So we can either be moving structures of our body closer to one another, so compressing areas or tissues, or moving them away from one another, so bringing traction to an expansion of a certain area. And these 2 movements enliven chi flow. So these positions are sending a message to the intelligence of our body so that it knows where to move into, where to bring its healing to. A gentle taxing of certain areas through this pressure and squeeze as well as traction can enhance the intelligence of our body, its healing capacity. Gentle taxing, gentle stress in a good way leads to healing. And so carrying on from the idea of dropping the labels and the descriptions and the often limiting beliefs that we hold about ourselves. We can then allow that to go one step further, and we could say that actually the mind has created a me. It's created a me. And so we essentially make ourselves into an object. We have a backstory, a history, and this forms our relationship, how we think about ourselves in this moment. And we recognize that as being me, us. So the illusion of our egoic identity is something that we look into in yoga. So over time, we can unpick all of the ways that we see ourselves. And Eckhart Tolle mentions, by knowing yourself as the awareness in which phenomenal existence happens, you become free of dependency on phenomena and free of self-seeking in situations, places, and conditions. So what he's saying there is we look to find ourselves. We could say, that's me, and this is me, and this is me in situations, certain conditions and places. He goes on to say, in other words, what happens or does not happen is actually not that important. Things lose their heaviness when you know yourself as the awareness in which the things are happening. Things lose their seriousness. A playfulness comes into your life. And you recognize this world as a cosmic dance, the dance of form, no more and no less. And this really speaks to me, as we can so often find ourselves and identify or over-identify with certain things being a certain way. And when they are not that way, then we feel as though we've lost ourselves. But actually, he's reminding us that we are not a circumstance or situation or person, really, but we're actually the awareness in which everything is happening. And that awareness is aware of the cycle of life, this birth and death and rebirth and death, this constant cosmic dance, the dance of nature. And now taking your last breath in And in slow motion, we'll release. So we're going to slide your left leg behind you, or straightening through both legs if you're resting on the back. And then once you've released from your position, come to a lying down pose with your knees hugged inwards. And here, take a deep breath in and big sigh out. Whole body awareness, whole body mindfulness. And so when he mentions that things lose their heaviness and their seriousness, I think it's not that they lose their importance. You know, things can still be really important to us and really felt, but actually there's a recognition that we cannot contain or hold anything, that we're all in this continual flow that has to continually keep moving. And all we can do is really surrender into that continual change. And now as we twist, we'll bring both knees over to your right side and maybe moving your left leg over your right leg to make it more intense. So this is actually a way in which we can deepen the effect we're having in the upper body. So if you do feel too much in the upper body, then just release your legs on top of one another again. So if you do want to feel more in the pectoral muscles and across the chest, make sure you bring your left leg over your right leg and then both knees rest heavy on the floor. That's good. As you breathe in, raise your left arm, and as you breathe out, move it on a diagonal, so just above your shoulder. If you find there's too much sensation there, we could choose to move the arm next to the ear. But your left shoulder may be lifted. So that's totally cool. If your shoulder is lifted and the arm is wide, take a breath in to inflate your left side body. Maybe your arm rises naturally, and then as you breathe out, sink and soften through your left side. So your left arm gets heavier and heavier. Breathing in and breathing out to sink and soften downwards. Breathing in and breathing out to sink and soften downwards. And encouraging the body to relax and to soften in new ways. Whole body breathes in. Maybe your left arm rises as you breathe in. Whole body sinks and surrenders as you breathe out. Whole body breathes in. Whole body breathes out. And we're working in the lungs, in the large intestine, the heart, and the small intestine chi. So in these positions which target the heart center, we can increase feelings of loving kindness and letting go of any bitterness or sorrow, any grief, to become courageous. By knowing ourselves as the awareness in which it's all happening. Everything's allowed to be. Nature is allowed to flow in the way that it wants to. And we can recognize this experience as fleeting and imperfect. And within that fleeting, imperfect nature of life, we can find what makes us happy, that joy, knowing that it will pass, allows us to appreciate it and experience it more deeply at the time. Now, in order to safely release our twisting, we must bring the arm over the body first. So bring your left arm to the right side and then release your legs. And then roll back to center at the same time with knees and shoulders. Take a deep breath in. Big sigh out. And let's move your left leg over right leg, both knees to your right side. Hugging your knees high towards you, take a breath in to raise your arm, and then as you breathe out, drop it wide. So alternating the side of your twist here. As you breathe into right shoulder, right lung, right side of the waist. Maybe your arm rises as you breathe in. And then as you breathe out, drop the arm heavier and heavier. So the pectoral muscles and the fascia surrounding the lungs and the rib cage can feel this continual opening, which allows for more space to breathe into off the mat too. And so we practice yoga and meditation to come to know ourself, who we really are, who the self is beyond the egoic identity. Knowing ourselves as the very life essence or nature before life takes on form. So in yoga teachings, we come to know our individual consciousness. And by knowing our individual consciousness, we then recognize that it's part of a universal consciousness. That if we were to look at the ocean as being the universal consciousness, this universal energy, we are one drop in the ocean. But we are made of the same stuff as everything that is manifest. And then this life takes on a form, and so often through taking on form, it takes on an identity. And we can often forget where we have come from, believing ourselves to be separate from this universal consciousness. So yoga reminds us that we are all interconnected. That the consciousness in me is experiencing the consciousness in somebody else, but it's actually the same consciousness experiencing itself. Nature experiencing itself through form. Now taking your last 2 deep breaths. And one more long, slow, deep breath in. And in slow motion, we'll release. So we bring your right arm over the body, closing the chest, and then slowly move knees and shoulders back to center. And hugging your knees inwards, give yourself a big hug. Take a deep breath in and sighing out. Whole body awareness. And now lengthening through both arms and both legs. Come to your Shavasana position. Nesting in that deeper connection you have cultivated. Sensing into the space inside of you and the space around you. Notice any greater connection or awareness of those 2 spaces as being made of the same material, the same stuff. Yoga reduces feelings of separateness from our environment. So we can really lean into and luxuriate in that feeling of connection. Resting in the awareness that you are, that whole body feeling awareness, whole body feeling awareness. Reminding yourself of your intention from earlier and calling that into your experience. And then making small movements in your fingers and your toes. And we'll hug one knee into your chest and then the other, rocking from side to side. Roll to your right side and come to a seated position. And here, with your palms in prayer pose, take a deep breath in, cleansing sweet sighing. Raising your thumbs to the third eye, your place of wisdom and intuition, breathing in here. Exhale to fold forwards. And staying folded for as long as you want to feel the effects. Namaste. Namaste to all of you. Thank you so much for joining, and so lovely to see you. And hopefully I'll be seeing you tomorrow. And I have my next class at 6 p.m. on Friday evening. So hopefully I'll see you there. And if you have any comments or questions, let me know. Hopefully I'll talk to you either in the chat or on email. I also have a program that's running at the moment, and it's a program through lockdown. So we're doing Tuesday and Friday at 11 a.m. So if you are keen to check it out, go to www.natashakerryyoga.com, and then there's lockdown to unlock. So the program, the 6-week program. And if you've actually missed any, then we can send them to you. So we'll be sending the first, I think it's 3 sessions to you if you sign up today. Cool. See you soon.
Natasha.
Hi Joe. How are you?
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year to you. Yeah. How are you? Are you good?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah. And you?
Yeah, good. Yeah. In good health. Yeah.
Well, I live in Washington, D.C., so this is a lovely way to start my day. So thank you very much.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. That's so cool. Yay. See you soon, Joe.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Oh, thank you, Stephen. I'm glad you enjoyed. And David and Cam. Thank you so much for joining the live stream.